Okay, class, today we're going to talk about audience analysis. As a speaker, it's very important that you know your audience. There are some clear things that you should know. First of all, you need to gather some information about the audience. Find out, why is this audience in attendance? If your audience is there because they've been mandated to attend, you'll have to arrange your speech in a certain way to draw them in. If they volunteered to come, you may have a much more friendly audience. Also, look to see, are there any common interests that you have with the audience members that you can draw on to have that relevance, to have that rapport with them? And how familiar are they with your topic? If your audience already knows key terms and phrases, already knows definitions, you may not have to go over that information. But if your audience is new to a topic, it's very important that you cover those areas thoroughly so they understand what you're talking about. How familiar are they with the sources of your information? Remember, sources are going to be used to add credibility to your speech. Make sure that your audience knows the sources that you're using, so that will increase your credibility. When we look at an audience analysis, a couple things we can see right away. They're called the external characteristics. We can see the age, the gender, the race, and all of these are very relevant to your speech. If I'm giving a presentation to a group of kindergartners about nutrition, I'm going to make that speech arranged in a certain way for their age group, for their attention level. But if I give that same presentation to a group of elderly, I'll have to re-target my main topics, my speeches. Everything about that will have to be reformed for them to be relevant for that particular audience. Also, we want to know that there's internal characteristics, things that you can't see about your audience, their attitudes, their beliefs, and these are very relevant to the speech as well. Now look for a second at this audience. The one over to the side, over here, look at these gentlemen. If you were giving a presentation to them, and if you were the speaker, you would notice right away this audience is not, some of them are not focused. Look at this gentleman here. He's not focused at all on what's being said. A few of them have attention. This one, I think, fell asleep completely. So as you look at your audience as a speaker, you're going to look out and try to determine things about them before you create your presentation. What's their age? What are their interests? All of these things will help you as you tailor your presentation. Now look over here to this side. He's speaking to a bunch of elementary looking, maybe even younger, first graders. Now notice that this speaker has some kind of an object. That would be much more relevant for this age group, having an object as your visual aid than having charts and figures. Now look for a second. If this were your audience, notice right away one thing. What's the gender? We have a room full of women. So if you're going to give a presentation, knowing the gender would be very important so you know how to tailor it. Now look at these children. They seem pretty engaged. But as I mentioned earlier, if you have a young audience, you're going to want to use things like props for your visual aids and not charts or graphs. As we look at audience analysis, let's move a little deeper. It's important for you as a speaker to consider your audience, but also look at, where is my speech being delivered? How is that going to impact my presentation with my audience? If my presentation is in a classroom, then I'll have a more engaging environment where I can walk through and I can talk with them in a closer proximity. But if my speech is being presented on a stage in an auditorium, I'm not going to be that close to the audience. You also want to find out how the audience is arranged. Are they arranged in a circle? Are they arranged in an auditorium style? Knowing their arrangement will help you to be able to keep your eye contact with them and know how to engage them more. Will there be a public address system? Definitely in a classroom, you may not need that, but you will need that if you're in a situation in an auditorium setting. And will you have freedom of movement? Are you going to be placed at a podium and you're not going to be moving? Or are you going to be able to move across the stage? A couple more things you're going to want to know about an audience analysis is you want to be sure that you make the necessary adjustments for your message. What message do you want your audience to accept from you? Be sure that you're very clear about your message so that your audience will be clear about it as well. Which audience characteristics will help me to help my audience understand my message? And to which characteristics can I most easily relate? And which of these characteristics represent roadblocks to understanding? With situational factors will make a difference in my audience's understanding of my message. All of these components about your message are very important, and you need to look at these before you give your presentation, before you write your presentation, so that you're able to incorporate these elements into your speech. The next time we meet, we'll talk about the 7 criteria of effective public speaking.